This is going to be an HR masterclass for all of you. Whether you're 20, whether you're 40, whether you are a CHRO yourself or a budding HR person, this is something going to be for everyone, including the students of management and the students of HR. What is HR going to look like in 2030?
In HR, you will see a lot of guys who are coming with a background of sociology, economics, and psychology.
Because of human centricity.
Because of human centricity. And out of all this, I'll say there will be more psychologists. Talent war will continue to be a far bigger challenge. And when I'm saying talent war, it would be more driven by the fact that are you able to differentiate between wheat and the chaff? Are you getting the right talent in a half an hour, 1 hour interview? I think first important thing is that don't become a brilliant jerk in the organization. In the hotel industry, I don't want people who can intellectually create havoc in conversation. You say that when I interview people, I like to see in half an hour, 40 minutes, besides the skill sets, would I really like to spend time with this guy that I have always considered the organization bigger than me. And I have always, I have never felt that I have become bigger than the organization.
Salam, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, white grin on my face is because I have with me Yuvraj to most of you, and I'm super excited to have him on the show. I've often wondered that if HR is truly a function of people, culture, performance, then it should have been on the high table of every corporate organization. This is what I wonder. But with UV, he already has one. A seat at the high table of MakeMyTrip. UV, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kunal. Thanks a lot. Pleasure being here. I think I've been to this place a few years back.
Yes.
But great to be back and having a conversation with you. I think good to know that your podcast is doing so well.
Thank you so much.
To people you have spoken to.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think that we should spend some time.
And I'm truly looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a good masterclass even for me.
Thank you so much.
Our students and our audiences and people at large.
Thanks.
It always manifests from this thought that I have. If everything is getting disrupted, right? What is HR going to look like in 2030 in your instance? AI will run repetitive, intensive operating environment. You will have analytics driving decisions. Of course, there are going to be the humans who are still going to be around. Mm-hmm. But what do you think HR would be like in 2030?
I think it's a good question with respect to 2030. If I have to really extend it slightly more, we are almost 25. So say around 30, 35, 40. There are two ways of looking at it, Kunal. I have been in the profession since 97 when I joined corporate world. In 92 when I got commissioned in armed forces, and 97 I moved to the corporate world, and it's almost around 27 of working years of working. I think if I have to just take the rear view mirror and see that how things have been in the past, I clearly see distinct transitions which happens after 7 to 8 years, right? And there is a layer of certain elements of HR which continues to be there all through, right? So if you say compassion, care, softer aspects, taking care of people,
the human centricity,
it has been part and parcel of the way HR has worked for all through decades or so, But there are certain things which changes after every 5 or 10 years. And that's something what we need to really be very, very careful about. And if I have to talk about this, in 2000 when I started my career, I think HR was very focused on more driven by the manufacturing sector, right? And when you say manufacturing sector, what used to happen is that there's a policy, there's a law, there's an applicability of it, there are people who are supposed to be affected, and more or less in the whole country and everywhere, HR used to get governed by that aspect. So, labor, union, management and all that.
Policing and compliance.
Policing and compliance, and also policy-driven HR.
Correct.
After that, you shifted. You shifted from 2000, if I have to really take around 2010, 2011 and all. That's the time when multinationals started doing well in the country. And I worked for one of them, Pepsi, and I also interacted with many people around. That's also a time wherein your ITES services came into being, Infosys, Wipro, and all. They came into being way before that. But I think
they entered the maturity
stage. Yeah. And you'd see large workforce, right? Very disparate requirement of youngsters, right? Job hops. All that started happening. And there was also a challenge in terms of very heterogeneous mix, and how the laws can be applicable to them. If you remember, there used to be a conversation that are they covered in the law or they are not covered in the law. So that was another phase when HR tried to evolve itself and started working more from the point of view that how workforce needs should be really taken into account and how the laws and the workplaces can really be defined around that. And that is the same time, Kunal, there are few elements of, social issues came into picture. POSH as a compliance came in. Also DEI as a concept came in.
True.
When you evolve to a stage wherein now you are doing well, industries have grown. 90s was a time when the industries were growing well. 2010, everything was to a great extent looking good. And now there was a question of really doing institutionalization of certain processes in HR. And that's the time when we started talking about diversity and inclusion. We started talking about geographical diversity. We also started looking at cultural integration of people, and all that stuff started happening. Fast forward to 2019-20, startups, 2015-16 if you say, startup world, talent war, how you look at talent, how you hire them, how you train them, how you spread your net in terms of a talent catchment away from the only larger cities to smaller cities. Looking at the compensations which are far more fungible, also cafeteria menu based, all that flexibility in the process started coming in. And if you look at the similar trends, if you look at 2030, 2035, I would see few things, right? Development of people will continue to be a core. In a country like ours, cultural integration will continue to be a core. Talent war will continue to be a far bigger challenge. And when I'm saying talent war, it would be more driven by the fact that are you able to differentiate between wheat and the chaff? Are you getting the right talent in a half an hour, 1 hour interview? Your processes will become far faster and sharper. And AI, all these processes will help you do it slightly better than what you have been doing. One thing which I see coming in, and if the whole AI process, AI integration happens at the workplace, and we keep talking about what all jobs can be done, what all jobs cannot be done, I see clearly that in next 10 years, in HR, you will see a lot of guys who are coming with a background of sociology, economics, and psychology.
Because of human centricity.
Because of human centricity. And out of all this, I'll say there'll be more psychologists. There'll be more masters in psychology. There'll be more people who would have really understood human behavior and how to operate. There'll be more people who would understand learning, development, memory, teamwork, social development, social psychology. All that stuff would be important for the HR professionals to know. So I clearly see from the skill sets point of view, while Gen AI technology would continue to be there, but in next 10 years, you would see more of these guys running HR and being in HR and creating impact rather than anything else. So there's some of the thoughts if I have to look at.
And do you believe, if you go back to that 1990s and go back to that 97 in your 25 years, you've seen that, let's say, the BSE 100, for the sake of it, right? Or the private sector 100 companies, they are the early adopters. They innovate first, and then you have the shadow corporates who actually it meanders to the lower level.
Yes.
And do you think that happening again?
So no, I think it was more to do with the larger corporations, right? Larger corporations will have wherewithal of doing things and experimenting. So 20-25 years back, you would see around 25-30 big companies who would really set the processes, and they would be considered as the best employer.
Correct.
They would be considered as the best training ground for people. You can take any name which comes to your mind.
You take an HUL one and say, and take a Marico, Asian Paints, Pepsi.
Reckitt, Cadbury. These are the companies which would always come into mind. So people, Infosys was the first one which started emerging as a non-FMCG
consumer company
working in this space. So I think clearly processes used to be set there and others used to really adopt. Other element of this is, let's say industry-wise HR changes. So if you ask this question that 2035, how the HR will look like, I would say every industry will have its different ways of looking at HR. When you go to the manufacturing, still there is a policy which rules. There is still a process wherein somebody talks to you in your room as an HR head and who is coming from the worker class. There's a discussion or there's a thought that, hey, this guy is here to get something from me, or how I need to be calibrated in the conversation, because still there is a union management relationship, right?
For sure.
So that's a manufacturing organization. I worked for the Oberoi, New Delhi for 4.5 years, right? Hospitality HR would be very different.
Because it's linear?
No, because it's very customer centric. It's far more customer centric, and also it values a skill more than anything else. Behavior and values, right? I remember if somebody is in a kitchen, right? For the person, it's not important that how good English you are speaking, right? How good you are cooking in the kitchen and presenting to the guests is far more important. So the skills, and then the front office, in front of the guest, how you are behaving and conducting, right? So those are behavioral and functional skills, far critical and important in the hospitality industry. FMCG is hardcore competition, sales-driven HR, right? Incentivize HR.
So right.
That how you people are really driving the sales in the market. My HR would be revolved around driving productivity with that, right? You can do tech and product company. Tech and product company, it's all your knowledge base, right? It's all the skills. By writing 10 lines of code, you can create a magic in what your customer conversion is, right? So every industry will have a very different ways of looking at HR. But the fact is that people would continue to be behind doing everything. And over a period of time, while these things will get to a great extent automated and available off the shelf, you would need people who can really read things far sharper, better. And for that, I think that the qualification background will perhaps change. That's all.
And do you think also, when you look at, let's say, HR leadership, and since you spoke about hotels, and let's say take MakeMyTrip on the other side. MakeMyTrip, after so many years, listed company, is still a very horizontally integrated company, right? So HR functions very differently in a horizontally integrated company than a linear vertically integrated company?
Explain that to me.
Like a hotel is very linear. Eventually, the hotel, there is a general manager. This one is compliant to this. This one is compliant to this. This one compliant to this. It's not a horizontal.
In terms of structure, if you're saying?
Structure, policies, outcomes, talent. MakeMyTrip is like a upstart company to look at it this way. Very horizontal. People can be at the product line and can easily move. Let's say into the tech line, in the business line, in the marketing line. And the HR is very, I would say, more wider here in terms of their outlook?
Yes. I think that how I would define it is a new age companies, I have to really say, startups, you can call it, or upstart, any company which is around 20 years running with a product tech as a backbone. You can call it as a new age tech product organization. What happens here, more than hierarchy, it is more like a democratic and open setup which needs to really be created, right? So when I'm talking about movement of people from one function to other function, there'll be a family of roles you can move far quickly, right? Advantage also happens that the organizations like MakeMyTrip will have a role right from a graduate who can be an MIS person or who can be a sales agent to a data science expert who is a PhD in data science and working. So I think that the plethora or the spectrum of role these organizations will have will be far wider. So you can spend a lot of time doing from one end to the other and different roles at different point of time. And when it comes to HR, I think that understanding nuances of all the functions, because finally HR remains a smaller group of people in a larger organization, right? So you need people who are multi-talented, multifaceted, today a person can work with engineers, tomorrow a person can work with the sales guys, third day person can really get on to doing something which is more on learning and development. So I think that in HR, in tech and product companies, you need people who are far, far more versatile in terms of their skill sets, and they should be able to understand the business faster. Because here what happens in the new age companies, Kunal, you don't see the business. Like if it's an FMCG, you would go to any company in a outlet, you'll say, hey, this shop is doing well, right? Because there's a huge footfall. You go to a hotel, you'll realize that, hotel is doing well or not. So there is a visual representation of the customer there, right? And when it comes to online tech product companies, the customer is all at the back end of your clicks. And if you have to look at million customers who transact on my platform today, I'll have to look at their profiles by looking at the data. And if that be so, HR needs to be far, far sharper in understanding who's driving what. Otherwise, everybody is sitting on a laptop, but who's adding what sort of a value is very difficult to discern. And it will only happen if, as an HR professional, you understand what marketing is doing, what sales is doing, what technology is doing, what product is doing. And if you don't do it, and if you don't understand it, then perhaps you'll not be in position to create the impact what you would like to create.
So when the business models are shifting, in your opinion, right? And that, let's say the next cycle is 28, 29. I think COVID was one where I think every HR in every company had to pivot more mindset than anything, because everything changed. Everyone experimented with this whole hybrid model, offline model, online model, come to the campus, off campus. And eventually, at that point in time, and I recall all the HR pundits, everybody, my HR pundits, everyone talking about the fact that this is the new norm. You know what? Real estate, corporates, they're all kind of dead and people will work from home. And cut to the chase, 2025, they say, you know what? That system is not going to work. So 2030, 2032, of course, sociology, empathy, those things kind of remain. But what in this process of change, how will HR drastically change itself to align with that? What do you think? Would it be people? Would it be structure? Would it be process? What would it be, in your opinion?
For me,
because we are living in it right now.
So I understood. I think that, there are three important elements for HR functions to be effective. One is structure of the organization. Second is mindset. And third is talent. And if you look at out of all these three, talent is a medium. Structure is an enabler. But driver is your mindset. So any change which has to happen, it has to happen from the mind. You can have best of the soldiers on ground, but if they don't have a mindset of winning, right? Look at an example of when we talk about 1983 World Cup, where Kapil got the World Cup for us. Saurav Ganguly, 2000 to 2005, he changed the complete Indian cricket team in terms of an outlook, right?
The mindset.
And it was not that earlier we didn't have great talent in the cricket team. We still had great talent. But here what happened, mindset was changed. So any important change which needs to be driven in the organization, it has to be mindset. And mindset is the biggest impediment and the difficult thing to change. And it requires a burning platform. Crisis of COVID-19 was a burning platform. You are on a burning platform, it is burning from one side. What do you do? Visually, you have to really jump into the water. Otherwise, you'll get burned. And if you are in that situation, your innovation, your ability to do things which are absolutely out of the whack comes in and kicks in. COVID made us do all that. I remember, at least a month prior to COVID, when all this broke out, I would have conversation with many of the technology leaders outside the organization, within the organization. We would still have a very different thought on work from home. Within a month's time, it changed. But the problem with HR is, or why should I say HR, with the general environment in terms of people in the professional world, I think they get swayed very quickly. And ability to hold on, evaluate, and see what will work in the larger context remains very limited, right? I, for myself, I can say that when the whole COVID started and we used to have a lot of podcasts, I also remember my founders. We always said that India can't really be a country wherein a hybrid or a work from home can work, because it always works in tune with the macro. If you are a developed country wherein you have reached now to a GDP of 2%, 3%, you can still think of doing it. So you can't really do it in India. We'll have to come back to the full day working as soon as possible. And in MakeMyTrip, I think we continue to hold that ground. That office is open if you want to come and work. And we never said that, work from home for everyone or whenever you want. We always said that there is a flexibility around workplace. So I think important for HR would be, and what will change your question is, that's important to see that mindset should be there to flip quickly and adapt to newer ways of working. Today we are talking about AI in every function. Have we been able to really brace up? Have we identified which all areas AI can really be integrated, or we have just kept ourselves closer to ChatGPT and getting some draftings done? We need to adapt to it. And important what happens to drive mindset gets driven from the opinion makers in the organization, right? It's important not to really start changing mindsets of everyone. Focus on few who can really drive the whole path within the organization, and then see that ripple effect really carries on to everybody in the organization. So I'll say that mindset is important to be changed if there are other changes going to happen. Talent would continue to be a medium of driving growth for the organizations, and the structures will remain very integral. And that becomes a role of an HR, wherein you have to be very careful about the structure in the organization. And when people say that role of HR, I always say and think that biggest contribution for you as an HR professional would be that if you can see the organization and say it is structurally right or not. Are you driving performance or not? Forget about talent, hiring, training, development. All this are core. But two biggest element of the deliveries would be that drive performance, ensure performance is getting delivered, and organization is structured in a right manner to deliver what it wants to deliver.
And that mindset aspect which you spoke about, is that mindset taught or is it caught?
I think different stages. At what stage of a career you are, it's important for you. So I think that is how it should really be looked at. The kids between 20 to 30 can be to a great extent taught.
Correct.
How the mindset can change, right? By giving them the right environment, right examples, right stories, right values, beliefs, because they are still in the process of forming their thought process about the corporate world. When you grow beyond 40, when you have your own issues in terms of your wiring, you have your own ways of you have your own experience over a period of time, then it is best for people to be left alone in the environment wherein they can catch what the mindset really means and what needs to change. And I was talking about conferences, learnings, opportunities. You send young leaders to the academies and the training centers. You take young leaders to the 2 days or 3 days training program. But senior leaders, you send them to explore. You go for a 2 days international conference or 1 day international conference, interact with people, you catch what's going on. I think what somebody said, you'll resonate with few things.
True.
You'll come back, and reflection and acceptance is the best way for that. So my answer to your question is that, people in different stages of time in career can be either taught, molded, or they'll have to catch and they'll have to be allowed to reflect so that they can change their mindset.
If I am a student listening in, right, MakeMyTrip has been that great place to work, one of the most aspirational organizations today in India, right?
Yeah.
Consistently over a period of time. What should I be building upon myself when I listen to you that I have a crack at being one of the associates, members, teams, partners, whatever you may want to call it, at MakeMyTrip?
I think let me not restrict it to MakeMyTrip, right?
Okay.
I think let me just talk in terms
Broad.
of my
Got it.
experience, right? You know, I work for armed forces, Kunal, and I still feel that there were certain learnings which still people would relish. And I still really hold those core learnings very, very close. And when I see my career, my journey, I think that some way they have really helped me build some muscles around it. I think first important thing is that don't become a brilliant jerk in the organization. And what do I mean by that? So let me talk about what you should not be rather than what you should be. In the hotel industry, I don't want people who can intellectually create havoc in conversation. I need fast decisions. I need reasonable conversations. I need reasonable logic, right? I'm not sitting in a NASA or a R&D center wherein I need to really peel everything to the level of frustration, right? For me, done is better than perfect many times rather than really looking at right first time, because I'll iterate and come back and do certain other things. So to your question, I think build a right attitude, and right attitude gets built by being humble. And what I mean by humble, and this was taught to me in the army, that you have never achieved your true potential ever. You are evaluated on your performance and your delivery only in the relative terms, right? The day you start thinking that I have reached to the level of my, I am delivering 5 out of 5, you are not going to learn.
So essentially what you're saying is, I am sum of all parts. I am not the one.
I am not the one, and I have still a lot of distance to cover in my own right? If I say that I have done, so this year had been great, and I say that, I am 5 out of 5, I think you are setting yourself a failure. I think as a human potential, as a human, you are always 3 out of 5 because you have not achieved your full potential. And the day you start thinking that you have achieved your full potential, I think attitude is a problem. Your learning gets restricted. So first thing for me would be always that, ensure that you are underestimating yourself rather than overestimating. It will always give you room to really improve and do better. So that is one first thing about attitude. Second, for the success, I feel that as you start growing in the career, your knowledge about things which are beyond your area are important. And what I mean by that is that I may know a lot about HR, right? I may know about technology, product, about my business. But do I really know how the political and social ecosystem of the country works? Do I really know that what plagues the education system in my country? Do I know what are the drivers of economy in my country? Can I really do a conversation on what differentiates between the medical facilities in the country vis-a-vis available in different countries? Can I really debate, deliberate, and have thoughts about areas which are beyond my comfort level? It's important for you to have it. If you have it, you again start establishing yourself as a, if not master of all, you are jack of all trades. It's important.
You're also signaling the fact that if someone is considering you for a lateral skill set, you're displaying.
Yes. I think, and very interesting thing what Deep says, our chairman, he said that when I interview people, I like to see in half an hour, 40 minutes, besides the skill sets, would I really like to spend time with this guy in talking once the person has been hired? And that I would not only evaluate based on what you bring to the table in terms of your functional knowledge. It would be more like your own personality, what knowledges you bring. So I think attitude, your humility. Third is your knowledge of areas beyond your comfort level helps you succeed. And fourth clearly for me would be that, how you are connecting with people. How hungry you are in terms of networking and learning newer things from other people, right? I keep talking about create a network of people whom you can really spend time with. Don't really remain in your own comfort level of your batchmates, of your classmates, of your schoolmates, of your department levels? How can you really move beyond that and start talking to people from where you can gather some knowledge? And fourth and fifth would be that communicate effectively. And when I'm saying communicate effectively, is not you need to be great in terms
super efficient in your English.
In your English. I think that you should be able to, express your ideas and thought in whichever language you feel is right for you, but the clarity of thought should come in. When you go to civil services, people get hired for civil services. There are people who appear in Hindi, there are people who appear in English, there are people who appear in different languages, but they are hiring them based on the talent and
the clarity of
and
thought
the clarity
in
what
the
they
language which they speak.
Absolutely. And these folks from Punjab, a person can go to Tamil Nadu cadre and learn Tamil and speak as fluently as a local Tamilian because the person is talented. So the language is not a problem. It's important for you to have a clarity of thought. So if one has to succeed, my experience have been these few. And last, if I can also add is, I think it's important for you to align with a goal. And again, I take it from my army days. People ask me that what army taught you. I said that in army, you don't have to really align yourself with the organizational goal. The day you wear uniform, you are aligned with the goal of the nation. That this is what my goal is, right? If you go into any organization, it's important for you to quickly align with the goal. The moment you align with the goal of the organization, rather than getting into too much of a debate, discussion, and deliberation, and you will be far happier in terms of delivering value, and you'll be far more committed with the right conviction to do what you are expected to do. So I think these are some of the elements that I have to
very, very, very pertinent also. There is somebody sitting in Bihar today, let's say, or Jharkhand today. Brilliant. But is weak in his English. And for that reason, he gets or she gets very anxious and is unable to communicate in English. But is a brilliant business development person. Would organizations even look at him today or her today? Because if English is not a barrier.
We hire people for the specific regions also. In that case, we would not be bothered about this, right? We would hire people who can really be culturally fit in those areas because nowadays opportunities are so much across that you also need to hold people to the rules for a certain duration of time, right? Rather than really hiring from the best of the colleges and seeing that people, if they get posted to
and genuinely, I really think English has got nothing
they are tried. So I think you would hire people, horses for the courses. If you get the right people to hire, who can be deployed in that area, they can be groomed and brought to a different location. It's absolutely fine. I think that absolutely works.
And that's something MakeMyTrip has done it brilliantly. And I wish people take that cue cards. I often say this to all service industry people. On the other side is a human being. And not necessarily that human being speaks the language of English.
Absolutely.
But it speaks the language of empathy. It speaks the language of good service orientation. आँख में दाग के बात करो, अपने आप service हो जाएगा.
And see, communication is not only spoken words.
Absolutely.
Right? Communication is about you being presentable. Communication is about you saying something which is unsaid through your expressions. Communication is all about your body language. I think that your face can be your subtitle. So if that be so, I think communication is only to really put words to your thoughts. Genuineness, authenticity, Kunal, can be seen by the facial expression. So if you are in a sales role or in a service-oriented role, I think I would have number of experiences wherein I would have really put my hand around somebody in any hotel and all, because the fellow would have been so authentic in terms of the communication, in terms of expressing himself. It's important to be authentic as an individual rather than...
It's so interesting, right? A very good friend of mine, his name is Matt. He's the founder of Blue Tokai. And in one of the conversations was asked that how do you scale quality? And I said, quality scaling is a mammoth task, but what you can scale are people. And then one of the question was, I have a barista, but I got a barista in Jharkhand and I've got a barista in Bombay and I've got a barista, let's say in Ambience Mall, right? Not necessarily everyone talks the same language. And personally, and he agreed with me, and hopefully he's done that. And I said, it's got nothing to do with English.
Mm.
Look at the other person and say, my English is weak, but my Hindi is better.
Mm.
May I communicate with you in Hindi?
Mm.
And the other side, the person will much appreciate that,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to serve better.
Yeah.
Hamari problem hai, we become a little, I would say, closed, is because when you speak in English and I am weak, let's say in this particular language, or super strong in my native, right? I come across as close, but that's not my intention.
That's right.
But if I speak very natural orientation in what I do, service will flow through.
Absolutely. In any profession, certain outlets have started having people with specially abled folks serving.
And this with eyes.
What can be a better example than,
so right.
I think that communication is more about you expressing yourself and showing genuineness and authenticity in your unspoken words, rather than really talking something which comes through the words and is spoken.
I need to ask you this question. Your first leadership orientation was of course the armed forces, right? And that's what truly, perhaps from the boy to the man that you kind of became, and that stayed with you even at this age. When I look at armed forces, and when I look at certain different organizations in India, many, not all, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the commandants and the senior person is also in charge of training, and he has the same high table, right? As much as, let's say, another commandant of, let's say, an op unit or some other combat unit would be, right? So army gives its training equal importance. If HR is about performance, is about emotions, is about people, it's about shaping careers, why is it, I'm not talking Make My Trip, because that most of us over here, HR is subservient to, let's say, the business, and more so L&D is subservient to that as well. Why isn't that L&D and HR is at the high table of organization, in your opinion?
No, so I think that I tend to disagree respectfully. I think functions are driven by the people who lead the function and the agenda of that function, right? In every function, if you are in position to, present a compelling agenda for the organization, and you show capability of driving that agenda, that you do get, audience within the organization to drive that, right? I would say that in today's world, it's a question of who needs the support. That's one who needs the support, right? And who can provide us support. So if you look at supporting arms in army, whether it's an artillery or an air force, they're not going and really conquering the ground, but they're supporting. Are they inferior to other arms? No, they are as smart, as important, as relevant as infantry regiment. So it's a question of everybody coming together to create an impact. It's a question of what needs to be discussed on a regular basis as a long-term, as a short-term strategies. When it comes to business, financial decisions, operational decisions, customer decisions, technology upgradations, when you talk about, these are very front wheel of the organizations running, right? And they can really undergo changes every now and then. And for that, the conversations around these would be far higher, rather than really as compared to HR. And I always feel that HR is not a quarter-to-quarter game. HR is a long-term game. Anyone who creates a KRA for HR, which is for a year, it's only one or two objectives which needs to be met. HR actions happen at least minimum for 3 years' time, right? And you create a plan and deploy it over a period of three years. HR operates very closely with the CEOs, because my personal experience have been that I think HR also handles a lot of confidential stuff. HR is also a sounding board with the leadership team. HR is also supposed to be operating very individually with every individual leaders, with the CEO. And in that case, it's not important that in the boardroom, the discussion around HR has to be the top priority. It will be a priority, but HR also operates in a very, very, sensitive manner within the organization and creating an impact under the radar sort of a thing. And that is how I believe, because having 10 people in the boardroom and having a discussion wherein only the discussion on HR is happening, perhaps not even needed, because these discussions are also very sensitive, which can be people focused, individuals' style of operating, priorities. So operating style of HR is different, which gives a sense that it is not on the table. But the fact is that it drives the organization to the goal which organization is looking at. That is the way I think.
I love it that you respectfully deferred with me. My compliment question, and when you are within your circle of influence of, let's say, other HR leaders of completely contrasting companies, do you still get the sense of what you just said?
See,
they practice it the same way?
So there's either a problem with the CEO or the CHRO.
So it is a CEO-led.
So it's a question with the leadership of the organization or with the individual,
so
right?
Is that a people-driven culture, or do you think?
I think any sensible organization which is growing, fast growing,
will identify this as a most important.
Always value this. And in certain cases, people may treat it as an administrative function. But the fact is, it is not to do with the function as such. Some countries are run well, some countries are not run well. Some states are run better than some other states. It's not about the states having any problem. It's a question of who's
high stake. What you're trying to say, the high stake people right on top can define that culture, and the ones who have a very strong culture organization.
Absolutely, yes. Right? And my experience have been wherever I have worked, I think people have been top of the. Imagine if we have 5,000 people in a product tech organization, if you have sales organization, which every day people are going on route and selling their product, how can these conversations not be the center of focus? It has to be.
Yeah.
Now the question is that should it be through a loudspeaker or should it be through a subtle conversation? HR also has a huge role to play in terms of influencing the ecosystem, right? Because if I'm working with 10 leaders, I don't think that I'm going to really discuss everything in front of everyone like in a very democratic setup. I need to work in a manner of sort wherein I bring people on table, create a buy-in, and then try to present a plan which can really be accepted. So I think it's a way of operating. I would say that, in today's world, whether visibly HR is on the table or learning and development is on the table or not, but finally it remains on the radar and it remains in the driving seat.
And especially if to your point, and if this is a multi-decadal kind of a company that one is building, then HR as a function is not a support function, is a value center, and is not a cost center.
It's not a cost center. It's not a cost center.
Because you are the gatekeeper of culture, of performance, of other systems. Of course, everyone is asynchronously working, but that's more of if the operation or the product line is working, is my KPI, my department. But the we KPI is what the HR function brings.
I'll give you an example. I think, finally, how do you look at performance of the delivery of the teams, right? Sales team will have a very compelling dashboard of how the sales has grown, and which you are talking about the profit centers as a function. It's a question of how HR defines its dashboard. Can HR define its dashboard not based on a attrition, not based on learning man days, which are, these are all leading indicators. This is what you have done. What have you ended up getting is not getting captured in this dashboard. Can you really do that? If I say that in last 4 years, I have hired 20 great senior leaders in the organization and I have transitioned them to be successful in the organization, they are creating an impact. Out of 20, suppose 2 have not done it, but 18 have done it. Similarly, and it's not about MakeMyTrip, I think any HR leader, can they define metrics or the dashboard of the HR, which is more from the impact point of view rather than a execution and operation point of view. Then you will be seen as somebody who's creating a profit to the organization. Suppose if I start thinking, how many people I have onboarded? I say that I have onboarded 500 people in last 1 year. But can I really also say that, out of these 500 people, 470 people or 80% or 90% people are doing exceptionally well in the organization. So my quality of talent of hire had been of a very different level. So that's a matrix which will take people's attention. So it's important for HR functions to have their metrics and dashboard very clearly defined, which should look like a profit rather than a cost. That's how I.
But HR also carries these it heavy lifts a lot of aspects, right? Emotions, people. At the end of the day, if you look at it from that perspective, it's human beings at the end of it. Tell me something. If I have to little unpeel your own personality, Yuvraj, how do you deal with letting go of people? How do you deal with sometimes, business demands certain exigencies, demands certain, let's say, layoff happening, and not necessarily layoff in terms of trimming, layoff in terms of, hey, you're not, despite all those kind of things. Personally, it's very difficult for me, even today, after 3.5 decades. How do you deal with?
It's not an easy decision, and there is no right or wrong answer to this question. And it's not only a question of layoffs, Kunal. It is also a question of any difficult conversation, right? Any difficult conversation which you feel is going to really stump a person to whom you're going to talk and will have an impact for a slightly longer duration than a few minutes on that individual is a difficult conversation. And it's a conversation which can really create emotional impact on an individual, right? I think first thing is, in these situations, you have to be personally very convinced about things. If you are not personally convinced about anything, you will not have a conviction of, great conversation. If you have defined your boundaries before the conversation, that this is what my boundary is, then you would always be more bothered about keeping yourself within those boundaries rather than really being slightly out of the box also. So when I do a conversation, I'll give you an example. Like in MakeMyTrip and all the organizations, COVID, we had to really, separate some people in certain businesses. What was important? Important was that survival of the organization was important, which was not only important for the millions and millions of customers, but also important for, strong 4,000 workforce at that point of the organization. Now, there was a question of optimizing the cost and also looking at some of the functions which were not, which we were anyway planning to really trim down. COVID gave us an opportunity of really doing that slightly faster. If you talk to people personally, I personally identified all the cases which were long tenured in the organization out of whatever number of people we had. I personally spoke to those individuals and did not give it to others to really talk to them. And idea was to understand what can be the concerns and solve for it. And I did not sit in any conversation keeping in mind that you'll get 2 months notice, you'll get 3 months notice, you'll get this, you'll get Mediclaim coverage. No, it was more to do with having a framework and then being very open to solve for individuals, right? And good that we got also at least 30-40% people back in the organization when organization came back with a business. So I think it's difficult, but HR needs to train for this. HR needs to understand that unless you have a strong conviction, you will not be able to do it. Don't do it just as a part of a role. It's not that a police inspector's role wherein you can just go and tell what's supposed to be done. So that's one. Second is also be open to alternate thoughts which comes from the other side, right? Don't get into a conversation thinking that this is the final conversation wherein I need to close everything. Make incremental, moves over a period of time rather than really trying to, achieve everything in one meeting, because such things take time for people also to, somewhere digest over a period of time. So go with the flow is what I say, and keep organizational objective in mind that there is an agenda why you are doing it, and be open to follow it. That is the way approach I would have in terms of really taking difficult conversation. Difficult conversations also I would say as an HR professional, it's a lot about listening. It's a lot about listening. It's not about knowledge and your experience and wisdom, what you can share with people. If you can listen, and old age saying is that you allow people to when the temperature comes down. It's important if you give a shock to somebody, let the temperature come down. You have to make your conversation with people in a manner which is friendly in the context. You can't call somebody and have a difficult conversation suddenly. You have to create the right context. And I think that whole concept going to the coaching and mentoring gets into this. But I think it's more to be open, more to be sensitive, ensure that you are identifying the right time, you are open to take alternate routes and not fixated on a timeline. I think that you'll be able to do it.
Most of the times when the decisions are coming to you as a CHRO, essentially it is a complex problem and you have to choose between two rights or two wrongs. And it's never the right decision,
That's
right?
Yeah.
If I had to ask you, and as much as the segmentation that you kind of spoke about, but sometimes do you carry that weight with you back home, saying that, you know what, this is something which...
Personally, I think that I have been able to manage it well.
Is it because you're an army person?
Not only army person, maybe I have never taken stress back home. I think that I have had a very happy 32 years of a working life. And touchwood, I have been able, my ability to rationalize things have been perhaps strong. I also don't carry things in terms of remembering
so to that
something.
HR professional who is taking that stress back home, what would you tell?
I think that somebody who's taking the stress back home, it would be if you do the process, what I said, in terms of, getting the context right.
Got it.
Don't jump into something which you're not convinced with. Rationalize, reason with anyone. You will feel better if you have achieved it rather than really feeling guilty about that. That is one thing which I'll say to the HR professional. Second, I would also say that, you are spending 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours at the workplace. It's important for you to also switch off after a certain period of time, because the day will again start.
Correct.
After 12 hours again, you'll be back into the same scheme of things. Your ability to switch off and switch on, at least on these areas, are important. Create your own support systems, right? It can be your spouse, it can be your brother, it can be your friend, it can be anybody who has got nothing to do with you. So I think that talk to people. So I spend 2 hours going down to Noida every day, coming in the morning 2 hours in the car every day. These 4 hours with me are my own time, and I'll do a lot of conversations. If I have a dilemma about a decision making, I would talk to somebody whom I believe, and you will find that ideas, suggestions can come from all quarters, come from anywhere, and it can strike you. It can come from a small kid of yours who can also tell you why you're so hassled. I think finally it's a job, or finally it's something, one decision out of 100. So I think it's important for you to really wire yourself in those ways.
Over the period of years, being at leadership level, I've managed to do two things. I know when any decision comes to me, I don't take any decisions immediately. I defer it. I defer it by a day, 2 days. The other person may think I'm indecisive. That's okay. I will process it, to your point. If I am stuck in a dilemma, I will dial up, dial in, dial down, whatever. And then I'll process it and come back. So it allows me much more clarity. Don't expect. You have been looking at that problem for a month. Don't expect in 2 minutes me giving you a decision. And for whatever reason, if I've ever let my colleague go at any level, I try, not 100%, I do rehabilitation. Like I'll call up UV and I'll say, you know what, this person is good. He was not the right culture fit here, but he could be there. Unless, of course, it's performance issues, then I don't necessarily admonish that.
You're right. I think,
and that gives me a sense of, I would say,
I think many times you do favor to people see, as an individual, people are insecure many times, right?
Correct.
And they also know that they are on the downslope. And at any point of time, there can be a conversation. And I'm talking in a very generic way. Many times, as a leader or as an HR professional, you can give a strength to people and make them realize that, hey, you can do better outside. And I have personally dozens of such examples wherein I would have had conversations with people within the organization, outside the organization, and people would have finally come back and said that, hey, I think that you helped me take a great decision. I think that good that I moved out. Perhaps what I'm doing is far better than what I could have done in the other place. So I think it's important to give strength to the individual to take the decision on his or her own rather than you imposing that decision. How do you exit also as a friendly ambassador?
True.
Is the final.
It's like you're an ISH alum, employee
Yes.
alum, or a MakeMyTrip.
Yes.
alum.
Yes. On exiting also, you should be the best of the friend, and you should still be the best ambassador when you go outside. Can you create that sort of an environment and a relationship? You have achieved your work better.
I'm going to put you on a spotlight right now.
Yeah.
People who I know in MakeMyTrip, right? Pretty much top down, everyone says super good things about you.
About me?
About you.
Yeah. I don't know. I think who all have
you need to ask outsiders, including one of your founders.
Thanks to all of them, yeah.
What is it? How did you become this man that you have become? I'll tell you what they say. Rational thought, rational person, calm person. What they also say about you is the fact, very, what was the right word? Very just in his decisions, does not carry any conscious bias. How have you become the man that you have become?
I think you're really putting me in a spotlight.
I told you.
I don't know.
And that was with your permission.
Yeah. No, I think that it's a deep question, and I think that requires a bit of thinking. But let me just try to answer it with all
and you're living it every day, right? Because that's what they're seeing every day, and it's that reflection. It's that what aura you put yourself out there. They're receiving that aura, and they are talking about it. And I always say leadership is best discussed outside the room, never inside the room. Because when it's inside the room, in my opinion, it's psychophancy. When it's outside the room, it's endearment. Some impact that you have left on someone who is reflecting back and saying all these things.
So I think that one thing which I resonate with in terms of my growth as a professional, Kunal, would be that I have always considered organization bigger than me. And I have never felt that I have become bigger than the organization. If you have that mindset, then what happens? It works. You continue to remain humble, if I can say that. You continue to remain very, very self-reflective all the time. You continue to take all the decisions keeping in the mind organization first. And second is when you look at as an HR professional, the moment a conversation happens, you have to ensure that you are with the aggrieved side to get the best or get the fair side of it, right? How can you really be a devil's advocate for something which looks very, very interesting at the outset? That is something which is good. And third, I think that can you really lend ear to everyone across the hierarchy, right from founders till the youngest person in the organization? Can you listen to them? Can you hear what they are trying to communicate? And can you read the room? Can you get the drift of the organization and where are we really moving? If all of us are in a difficult business situation, I need to understand that right now what is more important is to ensure that the organization is out of this problem or a crisis, or a person is out of this problem or a crisis, rather than looking at my rule book and my ways of working. So I think that I clearly look at it as something which I feel that I am not bigger than the organization. Organization will always remain bigger than me. Second is that, continue to take side of aggrieved and be a devil's advocate in the conversations. And Also lend ears to everyone. And finally, read the room, understand the drift. And also as there's a Hindi couplet, if I can tell you in this.
I say I'm Bollywood by
Bollywood. I think it is like this, कौन सी बात कैसे कब किससे कहाँ कही जाती है, इस बात का सलीका हो तो हर बात सुनी जाती है. So it's not important that what you are speaking. It's important for you to know that how you are speaking. And if you understand this, then your ability to hold back, your ability to reflect can be higher. And then more often than not, your decisions would be right. And in people function, it's important for most of your decisions to be right. You can't really be as risky and innovative as any other innovation function could be. Because here you are dealing with humans, right? I can't create a policy which can create chaos in 50% of the organization. I'll have to be far more progressive, but at the same time, far well thought out and taking care of the last person in the organization to see that how it will impact. So I think some of these factors might be working, but I think that...
Yeah. If I'd like to sum it up in 2 words, I think you take extreme ownership. You think like an owner.
Yes.
And I think every day you wear the badge that I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And that keeps you humble.
Absolutely.
That keeps the organization agenda bigger than any other agenda.
You put it right.
And more importantly, it's a human being.
You put it right.
And there is an emotion and there is a baggage that he or she may be carrying.
Yes.
And how do I alleviate that?
Absolutely. No, you put it absolutely right. Ownership, accountability, working as you are working. I tell people many times that, the policies for this travel, that travel needs to be improved, needs to be decreased. I say that you go and do everything. In MakeMyTrip, all the policies are guidelines. These policies are not cast in stone.
Because there's
you spend money of the organization the way you will spend your own money. And if you feel this is what it is right, I think that managers are empowered to really allow you to do what is right. So I think that how do you create an environment of trust? And as you said rightly, how can you really be far higher in terms of your ownership and accountability drives? And that's perfect.
You have a 20-year-old listening to you right now, and you have a 24-year-old. One is an undergraduate and one is a postgraduate. And conflicted between, should I be joining HR or should I get into some business function role? 3 or 4 things why what they have or what they don't have. And why you should consider HR if you have these 4 or 5 attributes. What do you think that would be?
So I think normally people would say that, if you're a girl or if you want a cozy job, get into HR. It's more like a corporate job sort of a thing. But I don't think that is the right way to really look at it. HR needs very, very intense skills, and it can be high pressure, emotionally very high pressure job, because you have a whole lot of people who are looking at you. And you do a role which requires more maturity than your age.
True.
A young HR professional with 3 years of experience would be a Spock for people who would be 7-8 years of experience, right? So imagine how this person operates. It's not that every time my HR business partner or my recruiters who are 3 to 4 years of experience, their connect is with the guys who are 7-8 years. So I think it's important, if you feel that you have an ability, if you are mature in terms of handling relationships, if you feel that you can provide creative solutions to the problems, right?
True.
For any problem, if you can provide creative solutions, if you think that you are good in probing and getting into the root of the problems. In HR, a lot of time what happens, if it's a weak HR professional, he would take orders. You say that, I need 4 more people in my team, sort of a thing. And the good HR professional will go and really start hiring. The great HR professional will say that why do you want that, right? What is ailing? What is not working? Good HR professional will analyze your whole structure and come back and say that, Kunal, in your structure, there are some people who are sitting still underutilized.
True.
Can we really move them? An HR professional will get to the root and solve the problem. So that's a consulting way of working, right?
So right.
Can you
intra-department?
Correct. Can you really be a good doctor? Can you be a good consultant? Can you ask good questions? Can you get deep into the problem and give to the business leader a problem is this, symptom is this. You are asking me to solve for the symptom. Let me solve root for you. That's a good HR professional. Good HR professional, as I said, is a person who thinks that, can I be more mature than my age? And that's why you will see that if you do a bit of thinking, I have seen that the kids who are either the eldest in the family or the middle in the family, I think they would be doing well. And in HR, because I think they're in the habit of really wearing that hat of a slightly mature person. And here you have bloody everywhere people who are senior to you. So do you have that maturity? Can you really get to the root of the problem and give a solution? Can you assume positive intent? Because, and positive intent, I mean, is that anyone comes to you with a problem or gives a suggestion, don't be cynical and skeptical about things. Have your rational head and say, hey, somebody's telling me there has to be something which is interesting.
It's coming from a good place.
Coming from a good place, coming with a good intent to help me out. Otherwise, what will happen is over a period of time, you will get corrupted and you'll start looking at everything with a jaundiced eye. It is important for you to have that attitude. Always have a strong ability and know that as an HR professional, you don't have a luxury to be critical about the organization.
True.
You don't have a luxury to be cynical about the organization. If you have it, move out, look for something else. But can you really align quickly and be in the organization and still be happy and genuinely? If you have these skill set, and these are more behavioral, Kunal. I'm not talking about the functional skill set. Because finally, behaviors make people happy in the role rather than functional skills. And functional skills you can learn.
So if I sum it up, that person needs to be in service of people, not in charge of people.
Yes.
Would that be a good summation?
Absolutely. Yes. You
right?
Put it right.
And everything else that kind of follows from that. In service of people. Because you are in servitude now of your employees. Who are your customers?
Your service and you are facilitating. Facilitating. What do you do in the family to a small kid? You help people do the right thing, right? I think as an HR professional in the organization, you first have to have very strong value system yourself and your ability to help people navigate through the difficult situations by guiding them in the right manner. I think these are some of the things people should look at. If I have to really look at some hard skills, if I can add, I think numbers to some extent have become important, right? Because how do you see numbers? How do you look at growth? How do you look at your performance has become important. You need to be better in that. I think that you also need to be better in terms of a hard skill. Somewhere you're learning agility.
So what you're saying is HR is business.
HR is business.
Your decision has a P&L impact.
Yes.
Directly into the bottom.
Yes. You have your own P&L also. And whatever you're doing, it is impacting the business. So I think your ability to look at the numbers and get the trend, your ability to influence people. And I think that it's also important for the HR professional to develop skills of all domain of HR.
True.
Comp and Ben is very different.
Regulations.
Tracking, talent acquisition is very different. HR business partnering is very different. How can you be really, how can you be far more learning agile from one function to another function within HR? You move from a science to humanities completely. I think that's what defines the learning agility and the growth.
And especially also with this completely changing environment, how do you quickly transit or at least put forth how the transition can happen?
Taking charge. You have to take charge. You have to lead. You have to lead the agenda. If you can't lead the agenda as an HR professional, people will trample over you.
I think very sage advice, let me tell you. So let me put you under 4 spotlights now, right? but you can't think. So whatever comes to your mind.
Okay.
Right?
What is this? I think.
Okay, let's see. I have no idea. One HR trend you think is noise.
When HR trend, which I think is noise, Gen Zs are different.
Totally.
They are not.
They're not. I love them. One mistake HR keeps repeating.
One mistake HR keeps repeating is presenting as if they don't know the business.
Interesting. What is the biggest myth about HR?
That they can solve for everything. They can't.
Would you rather fight 100 email chains or one never-ending town hall?
One never-ending town hall any day. Any day.
Okay. What's harder, managing founders or managing feelings?
None. Because founders also have feelings. And all those who have feelings, they are also humans. So I think that from that point of view, both can be handled because both have feelings.
One piece of advice you have given 50 times and you still believe in it.
I still
believe in it.
One advice
you have given it hundreds of times. You've been giving it, but you still believe in it also.
That today's solutions should not always become tomorrow's problem. I always say that don't solve for today. Whatever you are doing, keep in mind that it has its ripple effect. In people processes, you can't keep creating precedents.
So essentially see it through.
Yes.
See it through, visualize it through.
Don't take decisions for today, solve for today, but don't create problems for tomorrow. So ensure that your decisions are thought through and they are sustainable.
If you had to give HR a completely different term, what would it be?
HR, a different term in the sense?
Chief Human Resource Officer, Human Resources, out, something which you think creative.
Org effectiveness.
Or a Chief Optimist Officer?
Chief Optimist Officer.
Is one sub-function.
Is a function, but I'll say Chief Organizational Effectiveness Officer. How organization can be made more effective is the function, and this includes everything. That's how. So COE, Chief Organization Effectiveness Officer. COEO. Yeah.
Okay. Weekend, tell us something which usually you don't talk about that you do and you'd really like doing it with your family members.
On weekends?
Hanji.
I think I'm a lot into music and also podcasts. Podcasts in the sense, I like to flip through them. I am also, nowadays developed some interest in, or developed new interest in terms of connecting with people, renewing my connection. So the weekends would mostly be either listening to some music or trying some new stuff or reading or listening to some podcasts, or maybe also spending a lot of time on phone talking to people, friends and all, calling people unannounced, and they can be surprised, because I believe that there are certain energy givers and certain energy drainers in the life. And weekends are the ones wherein you should spend time in energy refueling rather than draining yourself. So anything which you can do. My son is nowadays here, he's a young man. So I think spending time with him and also discussing things with him also gives a lot of energy and fresh thought.
If there is one food item or a dish that you really like and you can eat it every day.
I have a sweet tooth, so I can eat anything in sweet. But now I don't do, because I think there are...
Whether it's dal, chawal, roti, bindi, sabji, chicken, whatever it may be. What is that something which you really like?
I think every day, if you give me, I can have a puri bhaji with achar. I think that will be...
Acha, abhi sabse most difficult question of your life. Who made it better? Mom or wife?
Puri by wife and bhaji by mom.
I like it. Ye isme haath milao. I love it. Tere ko puri bhaji for the rest of your life milegi. I love it. we will end this segment. I really appreciate. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
Great talking to you.
For this lovely 1.5 hour session. I think, and I genuinely say it, Yuvi, is I love a good intellectual conversation. And you are that person. You are that person offline as well. You are that person online as well. And may God give you more strength, more success, more happiness, more joy, good health. MMT, in my opinion, is that एक होता था ना नवरत्न कंपनी, ये आपके प्राइवेट वाले में नवरत्न कंपनी.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Kunal, and I think thanks for inviting me for the conversation.
Pleasure.
It was a sheer pleasure to really talk to you. I think it's not a question of what I have spoken. What you speak basically comes out in a form the way it has been brought out or helped to be brought out by the people whom you are interacting with. So whatever I spoke, I think that you brought either best or average out of me, but I think that I enjoyed personally your questions, deliberations, and very, very thought-provoking questions. I hope audience will
I
get
think the
something
audience
out of
would
it.
love it, and when we release it, our matrix is when we get a lot of love from our audiences, I'll share it with you.
Thank you so
Those
much.
comments also I'll share it with you,
Thank
and
you.
they will love it.
Thank you.
And once again, thank you so much for being such a beautiful audience. I really, really love your patronage. Thank you for tuning in every time whenever we put our show out there. Once again, wherever you are, be safe. Salam, namaste, sat sri akal, and adab.